UX mentorship journeys, finding or becoming a mentor. If you all don't know me by now, I'm Benjamin Dolly. I'm the 2022 PhillyCHI board chair and also a principal UX engineer at Think Company here in Philadelphia. Tonight, we're thrilled to have 5 amazing speakers with us to take us through their journeys of mentorship, through their career, and how it's made a major impact on them. First, I want to get tonight started off with a little bit of webinar logistics. You will be muted by default and your video will be off as per Zoom regulations for webinars. That's just to keep everything nice and quiet and focused. If you have any discussions or comments, please drop those in the Zoom chat. We're happy to answer anything you got coming our way. And also remember to use the Zoom Q&A feature. If you have any questions at all for any of the speakers, please don't be shy, fill that thing up. We've got something very exciting for you for the Q&A after the event. Also for your convenience, we have the closed caption feature on with a live transcript. And this event is being currently recorded and will be shared online to our YouTube channel afterwards. As always, we now live in an entirely Zoom ran world, so we appreciate any patience you might have with any technical difficulties we have along the way. Now I'm going to pass the mic over to our vice chair, Remi Gurak, to tell you a little bit more about PhillyCHI and who we are.
Hi, everyone. As Ben said, I'm Remi Gurak, the vice chair for PhillyCHI this year. Nice to see you all again. I hope everyone had great winter breaks. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with us, PhillyCHI is the Philadelphia chapter of ACM SIG-Chi, and we've been curating events in the Philly area for about 15 years, a little over 15 years now. COVID time makes us think it's still 15 years. But our events are usually centered around UX professionals, students, and enthusiasts. And we really like UX knowledge sharing. And I want to stress that we could not do this without each and every one of you making it possible. So thank you again for coming out, joining us, and really making these events what they are. Just a quick note, we are really committed to supporting a respectful environment for our members, and we do have a code of conduct posted on our website. So please feel free to give that a look over. And if you see anything that is unacceptable during tonight's event, feel free to message one of us in the chat. I think we all have PhillyCHI next to our names, and just let us know and we will take care of it. I'm going to pass it back over to Ben Dolly to go over the board.
Awesome. Again, thanks everyone for being here, following along with our code of conduct. As I announced earlier, I'm Ben Dolly. I'm the board chair, and this is our first event of 2022. And we're super excited for the slate of events to come. Just a little teaser, we might be getting back to in-person events this year, so keep your eyes and ears open. And as always, our board rotates every year and is completely volunteer driven. So I'd like to introduce you to a couple of the faces and voices you'll be seeing throughout tonight. You just met Remi Gurak, our vice chair. Also on board this year, we have Laura Coyne, our secretary, Robin Zheng, our treasurer, Raisha Altoff, who was so kind to stay on again this year as our social media coordinator. This year, super excited to also have Kieran Abbott on board as our community coordinator. So be sure to reach out to her with all of your thoughts and ideas of how we can make PhillyCHI better. And I would be remiss if I didn't give a big shout out and thank you to Ben Swafford, our outgoing board chair. Again, thank you, Ben, for all of your leadership through last year and making this transition as absolutely smooth as possible. As you've seen in the opening slide, this event is also co-hosted by AIGA Philadelphia and their mentorship program, which we are super excited and thankful to have on board. With that, I'm going to pass the mic over to Joe Pascavidge, who is the mentorship director for AIGA. Joe, take it away.
Hey, everyone. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, PhillyCHI. Really excited to be here. When Ben reached out to me last few months ago about partnering up, it was just a total no-brainer. Love PhillyCHI, love the Philly AIGA. Personally been a mentor for several years now, and this is my first year as the board mentorship director with the Philadelphia AIGA. Special announcement, I did close down the application last month, but I have opened it today just for this event. So please check out Twitter and LinkedIn and all that. I'm sure we'll be posting it all over the place if you're interested in joining and applying. I'm not sure if I have any folks from my board here. Steph, yeah, I see you're here. She wants to say hi in the chat. Steph Sutton is our board president for the Philadelphia AIGA. But yeah, again, we're just super pumped to get started. So I guess back to Ben.
Yeah, thanks so much, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
And now, give me 1 second to share my screen again. Now I'm going to pass the mic over to Laura Coyne, our secretary, to give you tonight's schedule. Laura, take it away.
Thank you, Ben. So tonight we will have 5 speakers, each giving insights into their own mentorship and career journeys. After all the speakers have presented, we'll open up the floor for Q&A. We think that's the most important part. So feel free to post your questions in the Q&A chat as the speakers are presenting and upvote others that you think should be answered first. All questions in the Q&A will be added to a shared Google Doc at the end of the presentation. We'll share the link with you all, so any unanswered questions will be answered, hopefully by the end of the week. So the document will remain open until Friday at around noon. So once that link goes out, feel free to check in periodically and see those missing answers. Also at the end of the event, we will be doing an exciting raffle. So winners will be selected and announced at the end. We'll be reaching out to those individuals to collect their address so we can send you a physical copy of a Rosenfeld book of your choice. So definitely stay on till the end if you'd like to be included in that. And at this point, I will hand it over to Kieran to tell us about the exciting next step.
Thanks, Laura. Hi, everyone. I'm Kieran, and as Ben mentioned, I'm this year's community coordinator for PhillyCHI, and I'm excited to kick off tonight's job time. So for those of you who are joining a PhillyCHI event for the first time, we have job time at every event to connect job seekers with companies that are hiring. And since we're a local chapter, we're focusing on Philadelphia roles specifically. So if you are part of a Philadelphia-based company and you're here and you have roles open, please either raise your hand or drop a link to those roles if you have them. If you raise your hand, we can unmute you and you can briefly explain what your company does and what roles you're looking to fill. Looks like we have a couple already, so I will, let's see. We can start with Rick. How do I unmute?
1 second. All right, Rick, you're on.
Hi, everyone. Testing 1, 2, 3. All good?
Yeah,
All
you're
good.
on.
All right, cool. Hi, my name is Rick Boyer. I'm the user experience manager at a local company called Quadratech. If there's any Jeepers online here, you know of us. We are the leader in Jeep aftermarket parts. We are the largest provider on the e-commerce platform. We have exciting opportunities currently posted on our website, anything from development all the way through social media and a bunch of different channels. But my team is actually going to be expanding. So those jobs aren't officially posted yet, but I'm going to be looking for a UX researcher and a UI designer. Those positions will be hybrid positions. So currently I go into the office twice a week, sometimes once a week, but this is a new department. So it's really exciting. We have big 2022 and 2023 scoped out. So I'm looking to expand my team and our resources and our efforts. I'll post a link here. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and also feel free to check out our website too.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Rick. And we also have Lori, if we could unmute Lori here.
Lori, you're on.
Hi. So I don't have a link on me to drop, but I will put my email in the chat. I work for Chase, and we have lots of roles open. Particularly, I work in research, and so we have on my team, we have open positions, one for an area research lead, 2 VPs, which are leads, and then a senior role. So I will drop my email, and if you're interested, I can send you a link.
Perfect. Thank you, Lori. And Sean, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Hey everyone, we are hiring at Vanguard. Also, hi Lori. So we are looking for basically all UX roles. My team is looking for a UX strategy manager, a lead UX strategist, lead UX researcher, lead content strategist, and lead UI designer. But across Vanguard, we have many roles. So I will definitely paste in the ones that I have, but also there are a ton of roles right now. Thanks.
Awesome. And then Raisha, do you want to go for it?
Yeah. Hi. My company is hiring a lot of UX designers. So it's Cognizant, and Cognizant is a multinational technology and consulting company. So I don't have a link, but I'll drop in my LinkedIn profile and reach out to me if you guys are interested. Also for like non-citizens who need sponsorship, Cognizant also does sponsorship. They have done my work visa, so that's like plus. So reach out to me if you're interested in knowing more about the UX role. And yeah, the last one I forgot, like they also started recently they started a graduate UX program. So if you're a new grad, this is a good opportunity as well. Thank you.
Awesome. And it looks like we have Steve too. Go for it, Steve.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm Steve Pashley. I currently work for Wells Fargo Strategy Digital Innovation Group. We have a number of openings, senior designers, lead designers, and content strategist roles. I'll post the link to our job site in the chat.
Thanks, Steve. Anyone else? It looks like we have a lot of comments in here in the chat as well, so make sure to check that out. And if we don't have anyone else, then we will move on to people looking for a job. So of course, if you're looking for a job right now, feel free to reach out to anyone who just spoke or shared in the chat. And if you would like to share your LinkedIn in the chat, feel free to do that now. And oh, Robin, did you want to share?
Yeah, because my company Correlation One isn't based in Philly, but we're looking for a lead product designer that can be remote anywhere in the EST time. So reach out to me if you're interested.
Cool. All right, so I think that wraps up job time. So I will pass it on to Robin.
Yeah, awesome. So hey everyone, I'm the treasurer. My name is Robin. So big thanks to this year's annual sponsors, Blue Plate Mines, Think Company, Drexel's College of Computing and Informatics, Rosenfield, of course. So these events are made possible through the kindness and support of our sponsors and their donations. So if you or your company are interested in supporting us this year as a sponsor, reach out to us at PhillyCHI.org. I'm happy to speak with you. Cool. So next, I will pass it on to Remi.
Wonderful. Thank you, Robin. So let's get going into our event. So tonight we're going to take a journey into the careers of our 5 speakers as they discuss the pivotal role that mentorship has really played in their growth and success. So we're going to gain some insights into how you can make the most of this unique professional connection of mentorship. So we have a number of speakers tonight. So joining us will be Tom McQuaid, Rachel Winchester, Sean Bervin, Steve Pashley, and Joe Pascavidge. So thank you to all of our amazing speakers tonight. I cannot wait to hear all of your stories. I'm going to pass it on over to Tom.
Awesome. Thank you
floor
so
is all
much.
yours.
Thank you. Hey, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. Thank you so much to everyone who showed up tonight. I'm super happy to be here. We're in great company, and I'm excited to talk mentorship. So let's get going. I'm going to do a quick introduction of myself. So I'm Tom. I am Philly-based designer. I'm coming to you live from Fishtown right now. I am a principal designer at Think Company, where I work with Ben and Joe, so it's really fun to be here with them. I'm also a teacher. I teach UX and UI design at the University of Pennsylvania, and of course, I am a mentor. I've been mentoring through AIGA for a couple years now, and I also mentor through ADP List. So for those of you who don't know ADP List, it's an awesome resource if you're looking to get mentorship or if you want to be a mentor. Essentially what it does is pairs designers looking for whatever whatever subject they want to get more insight into, whether that be practicing interview techniques or getting portfolio reviews, with mentors who have been vetted and are volunteering their time and are super excited to talk with you. So highly recommend book time with me, book time with any of the other amazing mentors that are on there. But what we want to talk about tonight and what I'm focusing in on when it comes to mentorship in my 10-minute allotment, which isn't a lot of time, but I want to talk quickly about taking the awkwardness out of mentorship. And this is something that I know personally when I was first coming out of school and hearing about, you should definitely have a mentor, have someone guide you through your career. It was very intimidating to me and an awkward idea in the sense that it kind of felt like a blind date, right? Like, am I going to go out and find someone who's 40 years older than me, who's a career veteran, who's going to give me insight into all of their tips and tricks for navigating the world of design? How do I find that person? When I meet them, what do we even talk about if we have nothing in common? It all felt very intimidating and scary to me. And so what I want to talk about tonight is just some ways that I've approached thinking about mentorship and the mentoring relationship that kind of help to reframe the traditional awkward buttoned up structure and hopefully lead to more fruitful and enjoyable relationships for both parties. So quick rundown of my career thus far. I started out of school at an agency, Digitas, spent a few years there before going to a smaller boutique design studio called Happy Cog. From there, navigated over to a nonprofit called Character Lab, where I was doing user research. From there, jumped over into the education space at College Board and was helping them with their remote learning products at the height of COVID, which was very coincidental timing there. And now I am at Think Company, where I am a consultant for companies large and small, helping make their products more usable and user-friendly. But backtracking to the very beginning of my career, right out of school, again, I didn't know where to look for mentors. And this is kind of like what my conception of mentorship was, right? I thought, okay, like, I guess professors and teachers are kind of the people who I'd assume would fill those kind of mentorship roles, but I don't really think they care about what I'm doing day to day at my job. And I have managers and leadership at my current company, but how do I ask them to be a mentor? That seems very awkward for me to just go up and put out my hand and say, will you be my mentor? So I guess I'm left with networking, which at the time when I was a new graduate felt kind of just scary and like a room full of people in business casual clothing drinking martinis. And I know now that's not what it is, but something that I was intimidated by and just didn't know where to start. So I sat back and was hesitant to really dive into finding a mentor. But what I did was kind of write out a list of what I was hoping to get out of a mentoring kind of relationship. And this is kind of what I came up with, right? Is the person who could be my mentor someone who can teach and challenge me to get better at what I do? Can this person give me advice on navigating my career? Do I feel like they have my back? Are they rooting for me? Are they in my corner? And at the end of the day, do I feel energized by the relationship, right? These are all the things I would want to get out of a mentoring relationship. And I guess if the answer was no to any of these, then they wouldn't be a mentor. But as I sat back and looked at this list, I came to the aha light bulb moment, which was really that mentoring relationships are the same as any other type of relationship. This is not some very formal introduction you're making to a complete stranger that needs to feel stoic and professional and buttoned up. Just as you wouldn't walk up to someone and say, hello, will you be my friend? Well, maybe if you do, if you're in kindergarten, but you don't have to just make it an awkward introduction. These can be fruitful, friendly relationships for both parties. And thinking through it that lens, I really started to expand my definition of what a mentor is. Because if someone is rooting for you and giving you career advice and helping you navigate what job to get next, why can't a friend be a mentor? Why can't my colleague or my former classmate or someone I've met at any of these awesome networking opportunities through design groups throughout Philly and other cities, why can't they be mentors as well? It doesn't have to be so buttoned up. And when I think of it this way, I realized that I already had mentors before I even realized I was seeking one so formally. And throughout the course of my career, going back to this timeline, I've realized I've had that level of support from all over, from all these different sources. So I have friends who give me advice and help me to become a better designer, because everyone brings different backgrounds and experiences to how they approach their work. I've had supportive managers and leadership, and also these awesome organizations like AIGA and ADP List there to support me. So as I'm asking myself these questions on, what do I want next in my career, I do feel like I have that layer of support built in from both more formal mentoring type relationships, but also the casual ones that are friends, but also mentors. And so I think at the end of the day, if you feel like you are in an awkward kind of mentoring relationship, or you feel scared to even get started, here's what I would say. If you feel like your mentoring is feeling transactional or one way, just get to know one another as humans before you start talking about careers. This makes it so much easier to open up and feel like you're talking with a real person as opposed to just someone who's strictly there to give you career advice. If you feel like things are forced, don't be afraid to be vulnerable about what you want to learn and what you want to get better at, because that makes the mentor's job so much easier to give really specific tactical advice, as opposed to just keeping your cards really close to your chest and being afraid to be forthcoming. And if you feel like you're being imposing, or if this is something that the person doesn't actually want to be involved with, just find a new mentor. There are so many people out there through AIGA and ADP List who are ready and willing to volunteer their time to be a mentor for you. Don't waste time being in a relationship that feels one-sided. And when you get the opportunity, I highly encourage you to pay it forward and be a mentor yourself. I don't think it's ever too early to be a mentor, because there will always be someone younger than you, more inexperienced than you, who will be benefiting from the advice that you have to give. So I think to sum things up, I would have you all remember that friends can become mentors, mentors can become friends. And at the end of the day, invest in relationships that make you happy, because those are the relationships that are going to be the most fruitful and beneficial to you throughout your career, and give you the support that you really need to get to the next step you want to get to. And that is all I have for you tonight.
Thank you, Tom. That was awesome. I love the human-centered, user-centered mentorship approach. I agree with it absolutely wholeheartedly. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to a former mentee, Rachel Winchester. Rachel, you have the floor.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me again. I'll start sharing my screen. My name is Rachel Winchester. You can just call me Win for short. And my presentation is titled Mentorship, the Verticals and Horizontals. So the title will become more clear as I go on. So first, I'm just going to explain my story really quick. It's a pretty quick story, so it won't take long. But from in the past like 5 years, on the way to become from a art history major in college to a product designer at a tech company, I've learned a lot about mentorship and networking. And I've kind of created this theory in my head, this infographic that I'll share with you later, and how you can use it to help you find mentors. So 6 years ago, at this point, I was an intern at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. This is while I was still an art history major at Swarthmore College. And starting just 7 months ago, I started working at Digital Cube as a UX product designer. Digital Cube is a WordPress company. We're pretty small. Most of us are based in Kobe, Japan, and we have a small team of 4 in Philadelphia. And we make these 2 products, Amimoto, which is enterprise hosting for WordPress websites, and Shifter, which is a static site generator. So my story, like I said, it's pretty quick, 5 short steps. Had a bachelor's in art history. Right after graduating, I applied to the same place where I interned, the Philadelphia Museum of Art. So I started there as my first workplace. But on the side, I was building these arts related websites just as a hobby, and I was building them on WordPress. So working, continuing on that path, I realized that it really wasn't for me, the art museum world. So I kind of took a turn once I really enjoyed my website building hobby. So I started going to WordPress meetups to learn more about the platform and how to use it. After going to meetups for maybe 5-6 months, I landed a digital marketing internship, part-time internship at an agency that builds WordPress websites. Then the pandemic came and my agency ran out of work, and I realized I needed to learn a lot more about web design if I really wanted this to be my career. So like a lot of you, I started a boot camp. I did Springboard's UX design career track boot camp. And only maybe 3 or 4 months after starting that, I got my first freelance gig building a WordPress website. So I was doing the boot camp while freelancing at the same time. Freelancing kind of took over, and did that for about a year. It was going pretty well. And then it turns out a company I did a contract with wanted to hire me. And that company is Digital Cube, and that's where I am now. So on my journey, I've learned that everyone is a node. And this is a slide that I use in a lot of my presentations. It's probably one of my favorite slides. But it's true, and it's kind of related to what Tom was just saying. Like everyone has a connection to someone else, and everyone knows something that you don't and can share information and support you. So in learning this about networking and how to form connections with people, I've also come up with this theory that I told you about, this idea of verticals and horizontals. It's not very complicated at all. It's actually built on the business term of vertical markets and like vertical integration. So vertical in business is companies or markets that are focused on the same specialty and can compete along the same specialty. So sometimes vertical integration is when two companies who are in the same niche will join forces. Whereas a horizontal is a bit of the opposite. So horizontal is more like a supply chain. So instead of competing with the people, or instead it's people with very different companies with very different skills and abilities and capacities working together to produce the final product. So from beginning to end. And I relate this to networking in that you have to have a vertical network and vertical mentors in your network. And then you also need some horizontals as well. So as a product designer, as a UX designer, my vertical mentors are other UXers, other designers, people who can support me in my UX path and help me become a better designer. Whereas people on my horizontals are WordPressers and entrepreneurs. So people who can help me figure out where my design skill fits in that supply chain of building a website. So the WordPress community and some of the entrepreneurship communities that I'm in, they've helped me grow as a designer and let me understand my skill in context. Right. So vertical mentorships, that's really where it all started for me as a designer. I did the Springboard bootcamp really at the beginning of the pandemic. And this bootcamp is structured around mentorship. So every week I met for an hour with a senior designer who actually works at Intercom. So she was incredibly helpful, had so much industry knowledge, and just really, really just kickstarted my career and really my confidence as a UX designer. Almost immediately after I finished that bootcamp, I found the AIGA mentorship program. So it was a very natural transition. My mentorship and my mentor from Springboard, the program ended. So she's still around, they're still connected, but we were meeting every week. And then Greg, my new mentor in AIGA, he appeared, and we actually had group mentoring. So it was me, one other mentee who also attended Springboard, and Greg, our mentor. So it was really awesome doing the group mentoring because the other mentee attended Springboard and had an incredibly different experience. She also had incredibly different goals and a very different background. So I feel like just from working alongside her and learning more about her journey, I understood more about the field, and I grew as a designer just from meeting her and getting to know her. And then also my mentor that I was partnered with, he had freelanced for over 10 years. This was at a point before I had landed a job, so I really was looking for some freelancing help. I didn't really imagine myself ever being in the position of a freelancer, so I had so many questions, especially along the side of like client communication and contracts. So he was a very big help there. And then right after our mentorship program ended, we both found jobs, which is great. So we're all too busy now, but we still formed some very reliable connections just from that program. So I feel like if I ever need to go back to them and ask them for help or see what they're up to, they'll definitely respond. Right, and now here's my latest mentor, Jason. He's pretty cool, although that's not his car. So Jason is the other product designer at Digital Cube. He's worked there for over 2 years and has so much more design experience before that. So I definitely look up to him as the senior designer on the team. And it's just great to have him around. And he's very supportive as well. It's like in the previous presentation, you want to have a mentor who is supportive of you and wants to see you succeed. So being on a small team of 3 and him being the other designer, he definitely wants me to succeed because that means the whole team is succeeding. So after I started working at Digital Cube, almost 4 months in, winter break for Swarthmore was coming along. And I remember that when I was a student, one of the best experiences I had was participating in the micro internship program. So I looked to see if Swarthmore was doing this again, and they were, and I was so happy that I was finally in a position to participate. So this micro internship program is where alumni can post projects for students to apply to, and then career services pays them. So we don't have to worry about that at all. So over winter break, I helped out 6 Swarthmore interns in 1-week assignments, really giving them an intro into the UX design world. My school is really small and we're liberal arts, so design is not something that's covered in the curriculum. And I knew that it was going to be a really good experience for them, so I was happy to finally flip the script and be a mentor to a really brilliant group of kids. And now onto the horizontals. So finding community mentors, people along that supply chain that can help you grow in your career and help you figure out where to find opportunities and how you can be a better chain in that supply chain. So for me, my horizontals is the WordPress community. I build WordPress websites freelance, and I work for a WordPress company. But I'm also part of a co-working group in Philadelphia. I joined maybe 8 or 9 months ago, and it's a hybrid co-working group. So I can connect with people all over the world virtually, and I can connect with Philadelphians. And then, like I mentioned before, I graduated from Swarthmore College, which is right in the burbs. So I've stayed connected to the Alumni Association and have found a lot of various types of mentors along that horizontal. So one of the principal mentors in my WordPress horizontal is actually Dan. So Dan is the COO of Digital Cube, the company I work for, and he is the 3rd teammate on my team of 3 in Philadelphia. So we do have another intern, so it is a team of 4, but she just joined. But because one reason we have that intern now is because I did the internship program with the Swarthmore students, and that kind of inspired Dan and got the ball rolling, which is awesome. But Dan is probably the person who got it all started for me, because he spoke at the very first WordPress meetup that I went to, and he said, if you keep going to meetups and you keep meeting people, you'll find a job, because that's what happened to him. So I figured I'll just do what he did. And what do you know, it actually worked out. And he ended up hiring me. So that was great. Then I got a little bit more involved in the community, gave a few talks myself. And now I'm a organizer for 2 meetup groups, the Philadelphia group and the Montclair, New Jersey group, which is all virtual this year and has been for a couple years. And the co-working group that I'm a part of, I found quite a few mentors in there. Co-working groups, there's a wealth of mentors in co-working groups, because it's just a group of productive and entrepreneurial people. So they're always looking to make partnerships with other people, and they're always looking to hire and help out someone who they can work with. Another mentor I'd mention is someone that I met in the Swarthmore alumni community. He's an entrepreneur, kind of a serial entrepreneur, as he calls himself. But I met him when I started freelancing because he needed to work with a designer. But since then, we've stayed connected, and he's been giving me so many entrepreneurship tips. So he's another influential mentor of mine. Thanks again for listening to my presentation. Again, my name is Rachel Winchester. You can find me online at visualwebmaster.com. And thanks again for having me, PhillyCHI.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel. For those of you who are following along, we now have human-centered, multi-dimensional mentorship. So I hope you guys are planning to go deep, because up next we have Sean Bervin. Sean, take it away.
Awesome. All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Sean. I am a designer who has been around a while. I have 20 plus years in the industry. Basically, I've kind of learned everything over time. So design, UX, research, you know, pretty much anything that you think of as UX. I've worked in a lot of different domains, a little bit of print, mostly digital. And then also, sorry, I am completely covering up the screen, so I can't even see mine. How do I, all right, Zoom people, how do I get rid of the people on the right? I can't. All right, well, I know what it says. So I've also worked in a lot of different industries. So I've worked in healthcare, I've worked in agencies, and now I am working in finance, head of UX for one of the businesses in Vanguard. Worked on a lot of different brands over my time. But where I've gotten really the most experience around mentoring and mentorship are at the Franklin Institute. That's where I first started. I actually came in as an intern, and while it's not a mentor, I started free. I just started working there to learn my craft, learn the skills, really get into the business. So I started doing interactives on the floor for the museum. So that was very formative for me. Then I worked in some different agencies, but I ended up at Johnson & Johnson. And so I was there for about 8 years, started in medical devices for diabetes care. And then I moved into working on apps to support behavior change. And then I most recently am at Vanguard. So, sorry, I'm struggling with this. So when I think of my mentee experience, you know, the Franklin Institute was great. I learned a lot because it was more of just, I was doing anything, working with anyone. But I didn't, other than that, like, I didn't have a great mentor experience. I haven't had a lot of mentorships or mentors. I did at Johnson & Johnson. I was in a leadership program where they basically supported anyone in that program by providing mentors. So that was really the first experience I had. And that was really focused on providing other women leaders. So I could learn how to, you know, be a leader, but also focused on the struggles that you have as a woman, because, you know, there are different things that you deal with. And I had some really great mentors there. But then I also had other mentors who were basically like, hey, you just need to learn how to play golf and act like a dude. And I'm like, cool, that's really helpful. So I personally didn't have a strong mentor. And now I'm like, do I find one? I think I need to, but I'll probably be really speaking more to me as a mentor, because that's actually what I really love. I've tried to be a mentor over my entire career when I felt like I had something to share. So the first thing I would say, don't feel like you are not the right person to be a mentor, because there's a good chance you have something to share regardless of how long you've been in the business, your experience. There's always something you know that someone does not know. But I've really enjoyed mentoring, and these are some of my mentors. Right now, I do both internal and external mentoring. So I mentor people within Vanguard who are interested in learning more about UX. Then I also mentor through ADP List, which we've heard a little bit about already. So I am mentoring people all across the country and across the world. And it runs from anything like learning about UX, learning how to transition into UX, interviewing skills, just looking at portfolios, tons of different stuff. But for tips, the first thing I would say, the most important thing is get mentors. Don't be me. You know, it's really important to get mentors. And if you're looking for internal ones, you know, where the value there is really, they're going to help you understand the company. They're going to help you grow your network. They're going to help you get support for your projects, because you want those people who will be the champions to help you get your work done, help you figure out things you might not know. They are also going to help you understand the org structure. That would have been great for me just joining Vanguard about 2 years ago during COVID, finding someone who could help me figure out how Vanguard works. I still don't really know. Don't tell my boss. But they're also going to help you figure out, like, what are those operating models? What are the processes? How do you get a new mouse? You know, stuff like that. Mentors can do that too. They don't have to only be helping you with like UX or whatever you're focused on. Another thing they can do is they can help you understand the business. You know, finance is not something I'm super familiar with, so that would probably be a great mentor for me, someone who really knows finance to help me understand it better. And another thing that they can do is they can help you figure out what might be that next appropriate role for you. Because especially if you're finding someone who's been in the organization for a long time, knows a lot about the company, they're perfect people to help you figure out, hey, what's going on in the company? What might be interesting to me? Hook me up with some people to talk to. So just, you know, those are the things for internal mentorship that you can really find strong mentors internally. We also have external. So for me, when I'm looking to support people who are looking externally, so beyond their business, you know, a lot of it is just general craft. So if you're looking to be a better UX designer or a better UX researcher, those are opportunities to reach out to other people who do what you do, or people that you've heard about through PhillyCHI or through other places that might like that you admire, even reach out to them. It doesn't hurt. You know, there are a lot of people who are willing to support people who are just trying to learn more. So improving your craft, getting career advice. A lot of the mentoring I do is for people who are transitioning roles. So they might be in like something completely different, like maybe they're a salesperson is one of the people I was mentoring, and he liked design and he went to a boot camp, and so he wanted to transition to UX, and he was like, well, what do I do? I don't have that many UX skills. And it's like, cool, but you have like 15 years of sales and collaboration and learning about your clients. So they can even help you figure out how something that might not seem like UX can definitely be something that hiring managers are looking for, because a lot of those skills translate. Another thing I do is I look at a lot of portfolios. So just giving those portfolio reviews, I love doing that. Just helping people figure out how best to show their work or case studies, as well as giving interview tips. Definitely, if those are the things that you're looking for, that's a great opportunity for an external mentor. And then finally, like, don't be afraid to ask anything, or, you know, just like I said, don't be afraid to reach out to someone you admire or think would be a good mentor. They may say no, but just ask them. Don't be afraid to ask anything either, because, you know, people can just say no. My comfort zone with my mentees is UX. What hiring managers want, because I'm a hiring manager and I can help them, you know, figure out how they should present themselves based on the type of roles. That's stuff I'm very comfortable with. Last week, I had someone coming to me who was looking for advice on if she should tell her boss that she was pregnant. And I'm like, okay, I am not a lawyer and I'm not really comfortable telling you about this. So I can tell you as myself what I would say, but you know, I don't know if it's the right information. But she just needed advice, and I was like, okay, I may be a terrible person to tell you, but because she asked me, I tried to give her the best answer with being very clear that I'm not a lawyer, and you know, don't go by exactly what I'm saying for stuff like this. But I would say don't be afraid to ask anything, because I feel like sometimes mentees are like, just, they don't want to offend people, or they're worried that they're going to ask the wrong things. And your mentor will just say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to answer that. I'm just not comfortable. But just ask it, because you never know, you might get really great advice. And yeah, I would just say another thing, sorry, I'm going to go back. Another thing that I mentor a lot of people are just a lot of women come to me just because they just have questions on how best to operate in certain situations. I also have a lot of people come to me with imposter syndrome. So I would just say that there is opportunity in finding a mentor who is similar to you, because there's a good chance that they have gone through the same things that you've gone through. So look broadly for the types of mentors to support you, but also, you know, there are things that these shared experiences can be really powerful. So, you know, look for mentors like you too, especially if there are certain things where it's like, you know, a male may not understand sometimes people mansplaining to you, and I may not go to them as a mentor for that, and a woman might. So, you know, just look for those things that are going to best support you, because there's a ton of different types of mentors out there. You can have a ton of different mentors. You don't have to have a single mentor for like everything. Look for opportunities to find the ones that are going to best support you for whatever you need. And these are some of the places that I mentor through that you might find opportunities to find mentors for yourself. Again, ADP list is awesome. It's been around about a year and a half. It blew up. It's a fantastic place to find mentors, global or just really well run. Designed is another one that's a little more local. DT Philly is very local. That's something where they actually look for mentors to go into the Philly schools and just work with kids. So that one's really fun and kind of close to my heart. All right, that's what I had. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sean. So what I'm hearing from that is nothing ventured, nothing gained. Feel free to ask questions away. And with that, we are going to venture into Steve Pashley territory. Steve, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ben. Let me share my screen. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Pashley. Excited to be here and have already heard some really great insights from the rest of the group so far. Just a little bit about me real quickly. I'm a Philly native, born and raised here, lived in the area my entire life. Currently live in Northeast Philly with my wife and our two rescue pets are our demon spawn cat Daisy and our dog Shaggy. I'm a designer by profession, but my passion really is teaching and mentoring. As someone who's got a non-traditional background, who came from outside of HCI or any real traditional UX backgrounds, I love working with people who are making that transition themselves. I'm also currently teaching design thinking at Bucks County Community College. And so when I try to talk about my career, one of the jokes I make all the time is that at every fork in my career path, I've chosen the road less traveled. And that started all the way back in high school. When I left high school at 17, I actually went out and became a professional bowler for about 7 years. Eventually came home and tried to take the safe path, went to business school, took a job in the insurance industry. Along the way, I've worked pretty much every imaginable job. I've been a bouncer, a bartender, I've worked private security. I actually worked in a tape factory where my job, no kidding, was to take giant 12-foot tall rolls of duct tape, roll them down to the little rolls you buy in the store. Pretty terrible work. I've been a screen printer. I've been an entrepreneur. I've run design consultancy. I've started a nonprofit. I'm on the board of a couple of nonprofits. So I've pretty much seen and done a little bit of everything even before I got into the design field. And getting in the design, right? My professional design journey, right? I like to talk about the before, right? Where I did all the crazy stuff. The after, the last 20-ish years of my life have been in design. But I think that same thing holds true, that kind of always wanting to learn something new and take on new challenges and learn, right? And so in doing that, I've been both a mentor and a mentee. And so I'm going to kind of run through some timeline stuff. And Joe, I want to thank you for the idea of this slide. But the downside for me, when I put this together, I realized, wow, I'm really old because I filled the whole screen from edge to edge. So just wanted to acknowledge that before I dive in, right? So when I think about my design career, right, my first real formal mentorship was when I went back to school at Arcadia University, which at the time was Beaver College. The director of the graphic design department became a really close friend, ally, and mentor. I had no real art background. She accepted me into the program. She knew that I was a returning student. I couldn't afford to spend 4 years in school. And she worked closely with me to figure out exactly what I wanted to do to help identify my strengths. We put together a program that got me through a four-year program in about 2.5 years. And then she continued to be a friend and a mentor early on in my career, helping me understand what professional life would be like, building connections for me, and introducing me to some really great people. My next mentorship experience is what I call an anti-mentorship. So I like to joke about the idea of mentorship and anti-mentorship. When I talk about anti-mentorship, what I'm really talking about is those people who suck the energy and the joy and the life out of you as a professional, right? So my first real full-time job in a design agency was a small agency out in the suburbs. The two founders I found out really quickly were devout Christians who believed that converting everyone was their responsibility. And as an example of how difficult that got, they spent more time doing this than actually providing direction or mentorship. As an example, I think back to a time we took a road trip for a client presentation to upstate New York. So we were about 5 hours drive each way. On the way back, after 6 hours of working with a client, going through a presentation, having everything we designed get beat up and torn apart, I put on my headphones and tried to go to sleep. He started trying to have a conversation. He asked what music I was listening to. I told him Metallica. He proceeded to explain to me for the rest of the ride home how he was previously a death metal head, a warlock in a satanic cult, and he had found God. And he spent the entire 5 hours on the ride home trying to convince me how wrong I was and how wrong my life was. It was pretty obvious to me right then that this was not the right place for me, right? And so I pretty quickly moved on from there. I'm going to jump ahead a few years from there to about 2005. I was working at GSI Commerce as a contractor consultant, working on a lot of really cool, fun products. Got to work on NFL stuff, Nike, Reebok, Timberland, lots of really cool brands. But my art director was a good friend, a trusted friend. And we talked a lot about trying to move into a full-time role, what I needed to do to get to full-time. About 18 months into my time at GSI, I had a recruiter reached out to me and said, hey, we've got an opportunity for an art director role at Lenox, the Crystal and China company, leading and building their e-commerce design. Go for it. Here you're a producer, you're cranking out designs, you're doing some cool stuff and getting some cool brands in your portfolio, but you're not learning, you're not growing. If you go there, you'll be leading a small team, you'll have the chance to grow, to learn new skills, to take on more responsibility. And he couldn't have been more right. I left to go to Lenox. I spent about 3 years at Lenox, and it was a fantastic experience. I got to hire designers, mentor designers, learn how to work with agencies as an in-house design manager. And so just a really, really fantastic overall experience. I'm going to jump ahead again a couple of years to around 2011 when I went to work for a pet industry startup as the design director. There were real highs and real lows there. I had another, what I would call an anti-mentor, a manager who had her very own agenda and was manipulative in making it feel like you were doing great things by serving her goals. For example, my very first day, I had to fire the interim director I replaced. So not the greatest start. Things did get better. I learned a lot, good, bad, indifferent. And I actually had my first opportunity to mentor someone in a formal manner. And for anyone who knows me, you're going to get warts and all when I tell stories. So in this case, I really missed the mark. This was someone I was really excited to work with, someone incredibly talented. But when, she came on board and we started working together, it was just, it was a complete mismatch of personalities. She had a second mentor outside the building who would contradict nearly every piece of advice I gave. That person had an agenda for them that didn't match up with what we needed as a business or with the reasons that we brought her in or the talent or promise I saw in her. So it was really difficult, really challenging. After a few months, we agreed that, hey, this isn't the right fit. It doesn't work. I learned a lot from that, right? Number one, I learned humility, right? It's embarrassing to fail. I hate failing, but failure is the best way to learn, right? And so I learned a lot from that. I learned about myself, about my own, what triggers me, what makes me defensive, what I want to give and share with people. And from there, I was able to kind of move forward, right? So my next mentor experience was what I call tough love. I went to work for a small agency, UX and user research only agency, because I wanted to spend time as a hands-on researcher and really build those skills. I worked directly for the owner of the agency, who was quite the curmudgeonly man. He never had anything positive to say. He thought everything you did was lacking. He forced you to stand up to him, to challenge him, or get run over. I learned a lot there. I had to mentor more junior designers who were just feeling completely run over. And so I had to learn to control myself, learn how to communicate better, and to teach other designers on the team how to communicate, how to work with and manage this person. So really, really valuable experiences in a very tough love environment. The learning was all worth it, because my next job, where I was for 5 years until recently, I was brought in as design director to build a design team. I was really fortunate from day one. The director who hired me was actually a technology director, not a design director, but he was incredibly supportive, patient. He was really good at helping to identify my strengths and my weaknesses and work with me to manage through both, to bolster my strengths and to manage my weaknesses so they didn't derail me. I had a couple of great mentors in my first couple of years in that role. I also got to mentor a number of people, and that was fantastic, right? But when I left, we had a team of about 20 designers. It was really great to hire designers with non-traditional backgrounds, to hire really junior designers with limited experience, and to be a coach and a cheerleader and a support system for them. On the flip side, near the end there, I dealt with my last, hopefully ever, anti-mentor. A new CTO came in. He basically said, hey, look, I know the answer for how to design great products. Just do this. And he proceeded to ask me to put together a proposal for how I built an organization around that. I gave him a proposal. I guess it wasn't good enough because I was unceremoniously dumped from all of his leadership meetings, from all of organizational activities and visibility. And I never found out what happened or why. And so needless to say, it was time to go, right? So now, looking forward, I've been at Wells Fargo for almost a year and a half now. I'm a senior design manager leading a team of 16 designers and content strategists, some really good people. We're continuing to hire and grow. I'm super excited about the opportunities, and I'm looking to be both a mentor and a mentee. As I continue to grow in my professional career, one of the areas that I know I can continue to improve is on the executive side of things, right? So I'm looking for an executive mentor who can help me better myself and move into an executive or leadership role over time. So went really quickly through all that, but lots of good and lots of a few not so great experiences, right? I think that a few of the things that resonate with me from other conversations that we had so far, right, is this idea of formal and informal mentorship, right? I've had both and been both. And so with that experience in mind, right, a couple of things I would say, right? Start today, similar to what Sean said, right? Don't wait. Go out and find people you want to learn from today. Reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out. Similar to Sean, I didn't want to reach out. I was not comfortable reaching out and asking for help. I thought I had to learn everything myself and do everything myself. And that's a slow, painful way to grow. As far as tips, for mentors and mentees, right? So for people who are doing the mentoring, right? Always be respectful of your mentee, right? Don't expect quid pro quo or for them to do things for you because you're helping them out. Set clear boundaries. One of the things that I've had to learn, and I did see one of the questions was related to this, was to manage work-life balance, right? I've always been an overachiever. I've always worked too much and sacrificed too much of my personal life. I'm working to be better at that right now. And so for me, setting clear boundaries, saying, hey, this is the time I have, this is what I can offer, is important. Be curious, right? Make connections and practice candor and directness. I'm a people pleaser. And so for me, it's always difficult to be really direct and state hard realities. It's something I work on all the time. And I hope I can continue to get better at that. Other things you don't want to do for as a mentor, right? You don't want to solve problems for your mentees. You want to give them the skills to improve their own problem solving. You want to help them figure out how to be the best person they can be, not give them the answers. And definitely, please don't be an anti-mentor. All right. And then a few tips for mentees. Again, be respectful, right? Mentors, have a lot on their plate. Like all of us nowadays, the boundary between work life is basically invisible. So be respectful of time and space and understand the level of commitment that a mentor can offer. Be humble. Leave your ego at the door. A good mentor is going to tell you things you might not want to hear. And you have to be open to hearing that, processing that, and knowing what to do with that. Do the work, right? You're going to get guidance, you're going to get support, but you have to put the work in to implement the skills and the tools you're learning and getting access to, and get ready to grow from that experience. So, thank you all for your time. I appreciate it, and I'd love to connect.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Steve. And like Steve said, don't be an anti-mentor. No one likes an anti-mentor. With that, last but not least, I'm going to pass the mic over to the renowned Joe Pascavidge. Joe, it's all yours.
Hey, thanks, Ben. Thanks, everyone. So let's go ahead and get started here. Let me share my screen. Go full screen. If for any reason you can't see this, let me know. But yeah, so thanks everyone for joining today. I'm really excited to go over everything. Can you all still hear me too? I just want to do a quick sound check.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep, all good.
Yep. I saw some faces frozen, so I just wanted to make sure. So yeah, no, I'm really excited to be here today. I'm really excited about this partnership in general, but I'll go ahead and get right into it. So yeah, I'm Joe. It's me. I have been at Think Company now as the design director, recently promoted design director, and I've been at Think Company for about 4 years now. This past year, I am now the board mentorship director with the AIGA, which we are helping sponsor this tonight. And I will say, y'all are giving me a bit of a heart attack. We have 20 plus applications within the last hour, so that's awesome. Keep them coming. Going to need to partner up a handful of more mentees and mentors. But outside of the daily grind, and to also kind of answer one of the questions that Tara Paul had in the Q&A, sacrifices and do I have a life? Well, yes, I do have a life. I have an awesome family. My wife, Emily, and my 2 twin boys, and my little girl. She's a daddy's girl for sure, Evelyn. But yeah, I mean, outside of the daily grind, I do have a life and I enjoy spending time with my family very much. But I also love what I do very much as well. But we'll get more to that in a minute. This year, we also adopted our new cat. We named him after one of our favorite Marvel characters, Loki. But it was possibly going to be Grogu from another Star Wars fan favorite. But yeah, without further ado, I'll jump into it. So yeah, I'm old too, but I started back in about like 2000 when I went to a small design and art school back in Central PA, and my major was in traditional graphic design and some web design, where we would build websites in slices and tables, if you know what that is. I don't even know if UX was even a thing. I mean, I'm sure it was in a world, but it certainly wasn't something that everyone was going and taking advantage of right in the beginning back then. But I quickly started to realize that as I started to progress throughout my career, through a lot of like contracting experience and just like different consulting and agency life, that I had a passion for learning how to code, working more in the digital realm. Obviously, like things like mobile and stuff weren't like a thing necessarily back in 2003 just yet. But when it did start to get introduced around like 2007, around that time, I actually shifted gears to an in-house agency and had a unique experience to partner a lot with the Philadelphia Eagles. So I did anything from like print advertisements to the big like LED like jumbotrons at Lincoln Financial Field. But then I also kind of started to tap into a a little bit of that mobile knowledge at that time too. But when it wasn't until I went to a pretty large retailer around 2011 where I did a variety of things. I did some branding work, but that's where my passion for product design and UX really kind of started to lift off. And I really created a knack for just like iOS design and material design in general. And I actually built a pretty large global UX and product team, which I was pretty proud of at that time. I also had a fortunate opportunity to be invited to go stay at Apple for a little while over in Cupertino to work on some of their products, specifically the watchOS and the tvOS for their Apple TV. So that was a pretty cool experience that I could speak to in a little bit. But more recently, I had my eyes set on Think Company for a long time, and I actually found a mentor through Think Company that I had them mentor me 4 years before I even came to Think Company. But when I decided to make the leap, it just made it that much easier because I already kind of had that friend, you know. Yeah, just looking forward, just looking to continue to hone my leadership qualities and yeah, just evolving my brand, you know, just like not being a good designer or a good manager, which I love being a manager, by the way, but also I just love even more being a mentor to others. So yeah, my emotional journey, as I mentioned back in the day, there was a lot of ups and downs, you know. I started out in traditional design, but as you know, like in school, like it's all sunshine and rainbows. But once you get into the real world, it's like, oh, wait, I don't have 2 months to put this together, but I have a week to put this together or a sprint or whatever. And reality starts to set in and you have like those highs and lows. You see the good, the bad, the ugly, you know. But looking a little bit more forward towards when I started to get into more like environmental and like service design, I started to get more curious and I started to get a little bit more comfortable with how my work actually had meaning in it. I was looking towards like evidence that was helping support my design decisions rather than just making things pop, for lack of better words. And yeah, and just from there, honestly, kind of faking it till I made it. And I've been loving it ever since. But I will say, like throughout all of those, throughout that emotional journey, the good, the bad, the ugly, do I have a little bit of PTSD from some bad mentors or anti-mentors? Absolutely. Do I wish that I didn't? No. And you still remember like all of those instances. And I think that that's what I appreciate the bad mentors that I've had. And honestly, I think that's made me a better manager, a better mentor myself. And it's even kind of a core of what drives me today. Not that I wish like any like bad mentors or anti-mentors on anyone, but also don't let it scare you. You can learn a lot from it and you can learn what you don't want to do in the future when you end up leading a team or you end up becoming a mentor yourself. So yeah, as I mentioned, I had a pretty cool opportunity to work with a lot of pretty amazing teams and big logos across the board. But honestly, none of that really matters. I had this like major intimidation factor, especially when I had to work with the Apple evangelists, where I was like, oh my God, like they're going to be like these amazing like gods of design, you know. But then I quickly realized when I was there, they're just like us, you know. We're all just people. And I love programs like the mentorship program that I'm involved with, where people just want to help each other, you know. And that's the great thing about all this. So things that I've learned across like all of those experiences, skills are transferable, you know, like you can, if you believe it, if you believe it, or you maintain the enough mental capacity to kind of just like reflect on the good, the bad, the ugly experiences, and you're able to realize that for next time, chances are you're going to be able to help like do a little bit of storytelling and help somebody else. I often do that a lot of times when if I mentor on ADP list or anywhere else, I like to sit there right off the bat, just like folks will start like asking me questions or telling me a story. And then they very immediately come to a point where they're like, oh, I don't really know if this makes sense. Or if you get what I'm saying, but like I do, because chances are like someone else has done this before. And like in those cases, I had done this. You're not alone in those situations, you know, like someone else has made the conversion from a traditional design space to like HCI or whatever have you. Like, will those transformations be hard? Like, yeah, And should you give up? I mean, you tell me. I mean, I really think as a mentor's heart is in it, the mentee's heart has to be in it as well. And I think if you can both kind of like find that happy medium of where you're not only learning from your mentor, but like I learn from my mentees all the time. And those moments actually get me way more excited than anything sometimes. So yeah, find mentors. I promise you this is not lip service just because I happen to be on the board with the board mentorship director with the AIGA. I truly believe that this is something that is really important in the community, and programs like this, I wish I had this early on. I can't remember for like years going through being like, oh my gosh, like how am I going to like deal with these bad mentors or bad jobs or bad whatever, or where am I going, or how can I make more money, or things like that. I wish I had programs like this early on. And it's just so everyone's so lucky now to take advantage of programs like this, I feel. So definitely sign up if you haven't already, because I think you won't regret it. So people also want to help you. And like, how do I know this? I mean, we're all here right now. And the speakers here tonight, they're all telling you about how they want to they want to help you, you know, like be humble, as Steve just mentioned, be humble with not only your mentor, but with yourself as well, especially when it comes to like interviewing. It's okay to just be you. It's okay to mention in an interview, like, yeah, you know what, like I have some like skills to learn yet. I want to become a better researcher, and I have a mentor that's helping me with that right now. Or I don't have a mentor right now, but I'm really looking for that in my next job. I think that's like an important discussion, to be humble and honest with your potential employer. And another thing to keep an eye out for, like, don't try and overcompensate in areas that you know you want to grow in. And instead just like welcome those challenges and kind of speak to that. I think that speaks volumes when you're in an interview, especially like folks that I interview on almost a daily basis. You could see the folks that are hungry for it, and you could see the folks that have really great mentors that are helping them along the way too. So this is a quote from Paul Asher that I'm sure many of you have seen, and one of my childhood favorites, Steve Urkel. It's through mistakes that you actually can grow. You have to get bad in order to get good. So again, kind of touting my old manness. We all want to become the Stephans, you know. Steve Urkel became the Stefan. He became that like rock star guy, right? But it was okay. Like he made the mistakes. He could be him. He was good for who he was, you know. So we can all do the same thing there. So yeah, that's my presentation. Hope my rambling made sense. I've been in meetings all day, talking all day, but this was really fun. So if you all want to connect with me, here's my details. And again, that mentorship link will be posted on social media as well. I also host a interview blog outside of the daily grind too. So this is completely free, but kind of another branch of mentorship that I do. I started this blog series called Get Interviewed. So just like a platform that can help leverage like creative voices. I do a quick interview with you, and then I kind of write a story about it, and then it's yours. You can do whatever you want with it. You could share it, you could tweet it, you could put it in your resume, send it to an employer. They can see all like the awesome answers you have to your questions. Again, I'm just here to help you all. So I appreciate the time, and I look forward to hearing from everyone more. But if you also want to read a little bit more about me, the story is a little bit old, but I did write a story about my journey in terms of how I got to design, essentially, and you can read that here on my blog. But yeah, thanks everyone. And Ben, I'll flip it back to you.
Thank you so much, Joe. That was anything but rambling. That was super awesome. And with that, I am going to hand it over to Kieran, and we're going to open up the floor for Q&A. Also, don't remember, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A, and we will copy all of the questions into a Google Sheet to be shared after the event, and our kind speakers will answer those up to Friday at noon. Kieran, it's all yours.
All right, yeah. Thank you everyone who submitted a question. We've got some really great ones, and thanks for upvoting those as well. And you can still ask questions and still upvote. So I'm gonna start with the most voted on questions. So as someone who has never had a formalized mentor relationship, what's the typical method of communication? Regular meetings, how often, or just asynchronous questions and answers? Do you have an opinion on the best method of communication and frequency for a good experience?
Does any of us take this?
Yeah, you can, anyone who wants to answer.
So I can tell you what I've experienced. It depends. It's a conversation you have with your mentor to figure out what works best for you. And, you know, again, if the mentor is not comfortable with what you're suggesting, they should tell you. I have people who I just talked to once. So it's like just a mentor relationship where they just want to know something, they need something in the moment, and they just reach out to me through ADP list, or sometimes at work, if it's someone who's at Vanguard. But then I have other people who I mentor every week that I've done that for months. And we just decided that was the appropriate cadence, and I really enjoy the relationship. I learn a lot from it. So that works for me, probably for like one person. I wouldn't be able to do that for everybody. But then I have other people who I meet like every other week or once a month or something like that. So I think it's a conversation to have, and it will probably not always be the same. Like you may need that support a lot up front, and then decide that, you know, once you feel like whatever you're working on with them has been solved or is easier, you can either move on to a different mentor or just check in every once in a while.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
right.
Kieran, you want to move on to the next
Yeah,
question?
I just wanted to give a little space if anyone else wanted to answer. So our next question, and this is kind of more of a general question. How can you leverage experience from a different field to transition into a career in UX?
So I'll jump in next. That was my experience, right? I came from, business, and, I think part of it is honestly just being a good storyteller, right? Finding the overlaps, finding the connection between what you're doing now and how that might be relevant in your future work, right? So, as an example, when I worked in customer service, right, I was able to translate that and tell people how, part of my job was being empathetic, building empathy, listening first, right? I could talk about the some of those listening skills that I developed in other fields. And, I could also put the time in to learn new skills and talk about how those things all build up to qualify me for a role in design.
Nice. All right, cool. Here's our next one. Sometimes it feels like you have to be early career to be a mentee. Is it okay to join a formal mentorship program like AIGA's as a mentee, even if you aren't really entry level anymore? I think that's a great question.
Totally, 100%. Yeah, and I think that was one of my goals this year. Not that it wasn't goals prior, but I wish I could bold the text even more, but like I put a major emphasis on like anyone can do this, anyone is welcome. Even if you've been doing this for 20 years and you want to find a mentor, absolutely. I've met with some folks that candidly have been doing like graphic design for like 30 plus years, and they're like, what's this UX thing? Do it. Don't be afraid. I think it's awesome. I fully embrace it. I have a really cool story of someone I partnered up where they have like 7 years experience as a UX designer. They're the mentor, and the mentee is somebody that has like 18 years of like design experience, but they want to learn more about UX. I think that's just like an awesome story. So I know personally for the AIGA perspective, like the more the merrier. And I think it's just I think we all should have mentors regardless of if you're old folks like a few of us that are admitting that tonight on the call. Hey, I may be old, but I got my first tattoo at 40 years old, so you can't blame me too much. All right.
I think a lot of people on the panel tonight have mentioned like it's never too late in a career to have a mentor. Like everyone needs mentors at every stage of their career. And I think, as Joe was saying, signing up for AIGA as a mid-career designer is perfectly okay. And in fact, I would encourage it. I think we all need to talk to people regardless of the stage we're at.
Yeah, I think one of the questions on that for the AIGA mentorship was just like, I just want to find someone else and make a friend who also happens to be in the field. So there's no pressure there.
Totally. All right, moving on. To make the most out of the mentorship programs, how do you set effective, actionable goals, especially for someone breaking into the UX industry?
I think there's a couple ways you can go about that. First, I think you kind of need to get to know the person as if you're the mentor, like as the mentee, you need to get to know like, okay, are they somebody that really appreciates a lot of structure, or are they okay with kind of like going off the cuff a little bit too? Like there's different like templates and things that you can go through, like setting SMART goals or like a growth formula, like things like that. But a lot of times, honestly, I just like to, at least the first couple sessions, just hear what they had to say, even if they're like, I don't know what I want. I think that's perfectly fine. I think it needs to be said out loud in order for them to accept that it's okay to not know what you want. But hey, here's a little like blog or something that this person wrote, and maybe it like sparks interest. And then they start understanding like, okay, this is like, maybe I want to learn more about that. Can you help me understand a little bit more about that? Just kind of like giving them like breadcrumbs along the way can help in those informal situations.
Yeah, and I would say it depends. So definitely what Joe was saying. In the one thing I do think you need to make sure is that you do set some kind of goal if it is a long-term mentorship, so that you can go for a long time and meet and maybe not do what you set out to do. We have an internal program. I'm a mentor for a year-long program, and so we have like monthly goals of find them a managing director to talk to, and then now give them a project. And I think if we didn't have sort of those specific things that we were trying to meet by a certain date, with everything going on with life, being busy at work and all of that, we like the mentee may not do them. And I'm certainly not doing them because I'm like, I have enough just trying to support you. So I think sometimes having a little more structure, depending on what that environment is like, is helpful.
I'd also say for people who are trying to break into the UX industry, it's really important to have a portfolio and to have projects that you can show the public. So maybe a good idea is to form that mentorship around producing that deliverable, whether it's like a portfolio website or a portfolio in a Google Drive, or a specific project, inside your portfolio, or maybe you've been interviewing and you've got feedback on things in your portfolio and how you want to improve them. That's a good goal to set, and a good way to kind of form your mentorship around that.
Awesome. I just wanted to quickly shout out before we move on with the questions. There were a lot of questions around how to apply for the AIGA mentorship. It's only open for a short window of time, and you want to apply directly using that Airtable link that Ben just posted in the chat. So make sure you use that if you want to apply to be a mentor or a mentee. So the next question is, I've reached out to a few people who are supportive and willing to help me in my career, but I can't help but feel a little guilty that I'm taking up too much of someone's time. Any advice?
Oh yeah, you can do a skill swap, or some kind of I don't know. You can, it can be a transaction in that, like, one time I helped an accessibility specialist design his new website, and he in turn gave a couple of my sites free accessibility audits. But it doesn't have to be like all online. Let's say you're a babysitter or you have childcare experience and your mentor needs a babysitter, or you have a car and someone needs to get to the grocery store, that kind of stuff. So you can think out of the box there.
I would also just add that if you feel like you're imposing, this maybe gets back to a slide that I had in my presentation, but there are so many mentors out there who want to volunteer their time to help you. So if you feel like you are annoying someone or that they are kind of hinting that they don't have a lot of time to give to you, find a new mentor. It doesn't have to be that person. There are so many people out there via AIGA, ADP list. Your options do not stop at that singular person.
All right. Here's the next one. Here's a storytelling question for anyone. When you first, I lost it. When you first started working with a mentor, what kinds of questions did you ask? What kinds of conversations helped you both find a rhythm and common interests? Did you formalize how often you would talk? So I guess just anyone on the panel, kind of any stories you have from your mentor-mentee experiences.
Sure. So I think for me, the questions have always been kind of related to a point I was in my career, right? Whether it was transitioning from a junior designer to a senior designer, and it was like, oh no, what skills do I need to have? What do they expect from me? What do people expect from me now, right? Or even more so for me when I moved into management and leadership roles, right? It was honestly looking beyond design, because most designers aren't taught how to be managers or leaders, right? It's something that's not part of our education, and we have to go find that. And so, figuring out that, hey, I need help here. This isn't something I understand, and going out and asking those questions, right? And from there, you want to make sure you found the right fit, right? So you have a couple of conversations, make sure the personalities match, that you've got goals that person wants to help with, can help with, and then you talk about the formality of it, right? I've had, relationships where we meet bi-weekly for an hour or so, and then, I'm available, asynchronously to answer questions.
Cool. All right. Are we still going, Ben, with the questions?
Yeah, let's take one or two more and then we'll move on with the raffle winners. And don't forget, please feel free to drop your questions. We'll persist those to a Google Sheet. Share that out after the event.
Cool. So I'm just going to shorten this question to the question part. How do others balance their full-time work with connecting with mentors or other UXers in general after work hours? So yeah, how do you balance your job with your mentorship responsibilities?
Carefully.
I will say for myself, it's good to set boundaries. You don't want to overcommit and burn yourself out too, I sometimes will do it like over like a lunch break, like every couple of weeks or so, but I also send a like Calendly link very specifically of like, hey, from 4:30 to 6:30, you can schedule time with me, but like, I'm not going to talk to you at 8 p.m. I like to go to bed at 9, so setting boundaries is good.
And I do
agree about Calendly for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I do a similar thing through ADP list. They actually let you set up a calendar, and I just do weekend hours. So Saturday and Sunday, I block off a certain amount of time and I cap it. So I'm not doing more than like 3 hours a weekend. So yeah, it's whatever you want to commit to it.
Cool. Let's see, what do we have next? What are some of the best resources, websites, books, groups you have found to keep learning in your UX career? Since this is a field that is constantly evolving and changing.
for me right now, I'm really interested in behavioral science and behavioral psychology sites, right? And so there's a lot of really good newsletters out there around that space. I am, of course, on the spot blanking on them, but let me post a couple of in the chat when I find them. But I think, you know, that behavioral science to me in a lot of ways is kind of the evolution of UX, right? It's moving into service design, going beyond just screens, but, you know, influencing or positively, hopefully influencing behavior.
Yeah, actually, that's a great point, Steve. If any of the panelists have resources that they want to share with everyone, you can drop them in the chat or share them with us later, and we'll include them in our follow-up email. So I think we're going to move on to the raffle.
Excellent, excellent. Raisha, would you like to announce tonight's raffle winners for us?
Yep. Firstly, I want to thank all the speakers for sharing your mentorship journey. I personally picked up a lot of advice, and I'm sure our audience did too. So moving on to the raffle, I do have 3 winners with me. The first one, I'm going to butcher this name, I know that. Chloe Achui Mambit. I'm hoping I pronounced it right. The second one is Hannah Olin, and the third one is Sam Sardella. Congratulations to our raffle winners. And this year we have changed the format and have decided to let you choose your books. So we'll follow up by an email and send you the link to the Rosenfeld website. And once you have made your selection, we'll get it delivered to your doorstep, no matter where you are in the world. But heads up, it might take some time because due to COVID delays. Next slide, please. So we have a great slate of events this year, and we're excited to announce that next month we'll be hosting our annual World Information Architecture Day, and the theme for 2020 is a connected world. So mark your calendar for March 9th, and we would love to hear from you. Keep your eye for our call for submissions soon. Now I'll pass it on to Ben to wrap up.
And that is our event for tonight. I hope everyone found some very deep insights, made some awesome connections, and was able to seek and find a mentor if they were looking for one. Don't forget, the AIGA mentorship program is open until Friday, as well as our Q&A answer sheet. And with that, I thank you all for coming. These events could not be made possible without you. And this has been Dolly signing off, saying stay safe, stay healthy, stay connected.
See you next month, everyone.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks all.
Thanks so much for coming all.
Thank you, everyone.